Parenting is not easy. It's certainly rewarding, but it is not easy. In my experience, there are a number of common mistakes that most of us make as parents. And these mistakes can hurt both our relationships with our kids, but also our authority. In this video, I want to outline 3 of these mistakes so that you can avoid them. So let's get started. You know, there are many toxic parenting behaviors that end up backfiring on us with our kids. I actually address these in a lot of detail in my course that I've created on connection and credibility, but I call these toxic parenting behaviors the deadly dozen relationship killers. And I want to talk about 3 of these in this video. Number 1 toxic behavior is giving advice. Sometimes we just do that too much. I had an interesting experience with my daughter. She was going through a really sort of difficult time. This was a while ago, but it was going on for a long time for her, for probably over a year. And it was this experience that was causing her a tremendous amount of pain. And so without giving too many details away, I will just say that as her mom and dad, it caused us a lot of pain watching her suffer. And sometimes, to be frank with you, it felt almost unbearable to watch her suffer like this. And the reason is because I didn't have the answers. I didn't know how to help her, and I didn't even know what to say to her sometimes. And probably the most frustrating thing is that because I was out of answers or out of words, I felt so helpless. Anything that I had said in the past didn't help. Well, there's this particular night that kind of everything came to a head, and she was so discouraged. Now, this is normally a really sort of bubbly, positive, energetic kid, full of life, holy cow. And now there's this night where everything comes to a head, and she's so discouraged, and she's so down. And she's in a different city. She's in Reno. I'm here in Utah, and she's with her mom. And we get on FaceTime. She wants to talk to me. So she's telling me over FaceTime all these things that are going on with her that night, all these things that she's struggling with. And it's such a heavy feeling. There's such a heavy feeling there. And I'm kind of searching in my brain for what to say and what can I say to help pull her out. And there's nothing I can say. Nothing has ever worked. And I'm so frustrated, and I'm kind of anxious too, to be honest with you. And again, I remember that it was so heavy. And sometimes when I get heaviness, I will start to inject with a little humor, some soft teasing. It's sort of my way of trying to lighten the mood. And the whole time she's talking, I'm sort of wishing that I could come up with something to say that would make this go away. But I'm reminding myself what I tell other parents about advice, that she's not looking for me to tell her what to do. I remind myself just to listen to her. It's hard to listen when you're feeling really anxious as a parent like I was. Well, I really had to force myself to sort of hold on to my thoughts and keep them to myself and just listen to her. And so while we're together on the FaceTime, I spent a lot of time just listening to her. And again, every once in a while I would sort of inject some lightness into, I wouldn't overdo that, but a little bit of lightness here and there. And then at one point, for whatever reason, she just sort of eased up. And you could tell there was a relaxation almost. It's really hard to describe, but I could tell that she was feeling better after talking through some of these things. And it was then that some things kind of came into my mind that I wanted to say to her. But I don't think she could have heard them earlier if I hadn't initially spent all that time just listening and connecting with her. You know, if I had just kind of bulldozed my way in with advice, no matter how good the advice was, it would have just bounced right off. So for you and for all of us, when we're trying to help our kids, when we're trying to guide our kids, much of that has to start with connecting and listening, with empathizing, with joining them in a way, you know, I think it's sort of suffering with them. And it was amazing what happened that night. Her mom called me later after I had this FaceTime call with my daughter, and she just told me how much lighter the mood was and how much better my daughter was feeling. So the next time your child is sharing something painful with you, instead of telling them how to respond or what to do, just join them and listen and suffer with them. Okay, number 2 toxic parenting behavior is being defensive Have you ever met someone that just bristles at any kind of feedback? It's like no matter what you say or how nice you say it, any kind of criticism just sets them off and then they sort of overreact. It's almost like it makes it not worth going there in the first place. I can sort of get this because I can sort of relate to being defensive. That's kind of my natural way of being. Being defensive is such a relationship killer. It is so destructive to relationships. We actually know from marriage research that defensiveness is one of the primary contributors to divorce. It's that destructive. The problem with being defensive is that you are shutting your child down when they're trying to work out issues with you. It can come in many forms. You might say something like, "You just don't appreciate anything about me." Or you might say, "I guess I'm just not a good enough mother or father for you." Those are such defensive statements. And when you're defensive, you're combative and you're unwilling to be open and you're unwilling to change, and so you shut them down. Truly non-defensive parents can listen to their kids or their spouse's feedback, and they can be open to what they need to change, and they can apologize. If you find yourself as a defensive parent, do whatever you can to change this. Even if you have to get professional help, that would be so worth it. It will be such a well worth investment because you will get massive payback in your relationships. Now, before we move on to the next points, I want to thank you for watching this video. Do you ever struggle in communicating with your kids or disciplining them effectively? You know, none of us are given manuals when our kids are born, manuals that tell us what to do in every situation. We learn by trial and error. And that is what this channel is all about. It's about using my system of correcting and connecting to build a strong, trusting, and influential relationship with your child. If that's the kind of thing you want to know more about, like this video, subscribe to my channel, and then share this with your friends. Now, let's get back to the video. Number 3 toxic parenting behavior is parenting from a place of fear. Parenting from a place of fear is a form of control. We become controlling when we're scared. We think that controlling will minimize the risks because we're trying to decrease the odds that our kids will make a mistake or they will behave in a way that will hurt them or hurt us. We're trying to decrease the risk that something bad will happen. When we parent from fear, it always includes the what ifs regarding our child's behavior. What if he has sex? What if she does drugs? What if he fails school? You know, the list is endless. I think the real fear many of us face is what if we lose them somehow? What if they destroy themselves or destroy their future somehow? But when we parent from fear, we end up exerting as much control as we can so that our fears won't be realized. We think we're just keeping our kids safe. I'll tell you a true story. My daughter once had a friend whose parents parented from fear. They would not even allow her to eat school lunch at the same table as boys when she was in 9th or 10th grade. They controlled every aspect of her life, every decision that she could make. They were constantly fearful that she would make a mistake that she couldn't recover from. They were fearful that they would lose her, and they did lose her. As soon as she was 18, she got out of that house as fast as she could. She never went back. So, if any of these relate to you, begin working on changing these things now. Parenting out of fear, being defensive, and giving advice. Are you looking for a more effective way to connect with your child and build long-term influence? Maybe your child is misbehaving or going through a difficult phase and you're struggling just knowing how to discipline them or just how to react or reach them at all. My name is Dr. Todd Corelli, and I have spent the last 25 years as a clinical psychologist, and I work primarily with children, adolescents, and young adults. I have worked with thousands and thousands of families around the world, and I have seen the challenges that are facing our families. That's why I've created this 4-part video series that is completely free to watch, and it's available for you to view right away. This video series will help parents become much more effective at bonding with and positively influencing their kids. This system is completely unique and highly effective. I have seen this system benefit my own family and so many others, and I want your family to have this too. So just go to the link in the video description below, or you can go to correctandconnect.com, enter the details, click the button, and I will give you immediate access for free.